Endurance. It's something all of us distance runners want. And in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to build a bigger base of endurance so that the next time you decide you wanna train for a race, you're gonna have a bigger well of fitness to draw from so that when you go to do workouts, when you go to do long runs, when you go to increase your mileage and really get after it with some of those more race-specific workouts, you are going to be a more capable runner. Because as endurance athletes, our fitness is almost exclusively tied to that endurance. So no matter if you're training for the 5K or the 100-mile ultra marathon, we can build bigger bases, and it's just as important no matter what race you might be training for. I had a really fascinating conversation with Scott Johnston. He's a coach for Uphill Athlete, and he's the co-author of the book, Training for the Uphill Athlete. It's really for mountain runners and ski mountaineering athletes, but it's really a book about building endurance. And one of the things that he's adamant about is that endurance is the #1 physical skill that us endurance athletes need to build. And so we need to focus on this skill, but we don't necessarily have to do it solely through running. We can do it a lot of different ways, and that is going to build us into more resilient athletes when it comes to injuries, and it's going to build us into athletes who have more well-rounded endurance. So let's dive in. Now, the great thing about endurance is that it can sort of always be built. You can always expand your levels of endurance, but that can't always be said about, say, your VO2 max, for example. There's a lot of different ways in which you can build endurance, but there's really not much you can do to budge your VO2 max. It's mostly set at birth. Of course, you know, your training is going to increase that VO2 max, but it's not something that we really should focus on in our training. Instead, we've got to focus on our endurance. And while there's a lot of different ways of doing it, I want to talk about one way to not do it. One of the things that I see a lot in my coaching practice is athletes who divide their time up between race training and then the off season. And they're never actually building their endurance because they need a base phase of training. If you're in the off season, you're probably running low mileage. If you're training for a race, you're probably doing race-specific workouts and building up to, say, a 20-mile long run for the marathon, for example. Now, that's all great, but it's for a relatively short period of time. Say you train for a marathon for 3 to 4 months. Well, you're really only going to be doing some of those really long runs for maybe half or a third of that training cycle. And so I want to get runners off of the idea that there even is an off season. Yes, you should take a couple easy weeks after a goal race. Yes, you should have periods in your training where you're taking a recovery week or you're taking a week completely off from running. But if you're not taking strategic rest, we need to be building endurance. We need to be pushing the envelope with mileage, with our long runs. But also, and a big topic of this video, is other activities that are really great at building endurance. So for example, cycling. This is one of my favorite things to do. I have a road bike. I love getting out there on my road bike. I find it very similar to running in the type of fitness it builds and the type of workout I can get on the bike. Especially if I bring it up here in the mountains and I'm doing some real big summits of some big passes. Now, a lot of people ask me if hiking is a good option for distance runners to help build their endurance. It's essentially a form of cross training. And the answer is maybe. It depends on what kind of hiking you're doing and the type of stress it's putting on your body. So if you're doing strenuous hiking, you're hiking for, an hour or 2 or 3 or 4, and you're doing a fair amount of vertical gain, and you're going at a pretty good effort. Let's say you're power hiking mostly uphill. That is a great workout. If you're breathing relatively heavy, if you can really feel that it's stressing the aerobic system of your body, then I think this is a good workout for distance runners, especially trail runners and ultra runners. You're probably going to have to do a little bit of hiking in some of your races. So not only is this great for building endurance, but you're also getting some sport-specific training in as well.
You know, I'm not that big into supplements, but I do love AG1 by Athletic Greens. I consider it my nutrition insurance, helping me cover all my bases so I know I'm not missing out on anything my body needs, especially when I'm training really hard. I try to eat really well, but of course, AG1 is that extra security that gives me peace of mind over my diet. 1 scoop per day, and I'm getting 75 vitamins and minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, antioxidants, and adaptogens. You can try it out too at athleticgreens.com/Jason, and they're going to throw in a free year's worth supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. Check it out at athleticgreens.com/Jason.
A helpful way that I like to think about my training volume is that when I'm in a period where I really want to be building endurance, then I focus on volume. And we can think about this in terms of our weekly mileage. We can think about this in terms of the distance and consistency and frequency of our long run. We can also think about this in terms of our cross training. How much hiking are you doing every week? How much cycling are you doing every week? We can also do other types of cross training like the elliptical or pool running. I know I have had amazing breakthroughs in my own personal performances when I've added a lot of cross training into my training program. And that's for the simple reason that I needed to build more endurance, but I'm injury prone. I couldn't run beyond a certain mileage level without dramatically increasing my injury risk. And so I essentially padded the extra weekly mileage with cycling and pool running. And I did this before my senior year in college for cross country. And I had dramatic breakthroughs in my performance. I had PRs that year in almost every single distance and had my best season of cross country ever. And that's part of the reason is because not only was I running 80 to 85 miles a week consistently, and while I had been doing that mileage previously, I had never done it consistently. I was also getting in between 2 and 3 hours of cross training every single week. And while it's not exactly the same, many of those endurance benefits are going to carry over into your running. So if you're a runner who maybe starts to get injured at 40 miles a week or 50 miles a week, then you can add a couple hours of cross training into your weekly schedule, and it almost acts as if you're doing extra mileage. And that's how we should think about the extra cross training we have in our training program. It's not considered a workout. It's not something that's going to make us fast, but it is going to give us the endurance we need to then do the workouts we need to get fast. So the way I like to think about cross training is, let's say you typically run 8, 9, 10-minute miles, and that's your easy running pace. What I like to see runners do is round this up to maybe 15 minutes. And so every 15 minutes of aerobic cross training, like power hiking or cycling, of the elliptical or pool running, every 15 minutes or so is roughly equivalent of about a mile of easy running. Yeah, you're getting a little extra in with the cross training, but that's kind of the point. We want to underestimate how much we're actually doing. So let's say you do 2 hours of extra cross training a week. You can say, well, that's like running an extra 8 miles a week. Instead of being a 40-mile-a-week runner, now you're a 48-mile-a-week runner. And it's essentially like adding 20% of extra mileage to your week. So if you're someone who can't get beyond a certain mileage level because you always get hurt, if you're like me, then adding more cross training is a way of massively expanding your endurance base. And once you do that, once you get over the 4 to 8 week period where you're just going to be kind of tired, you are going to start to feel so strong and powerful. And that's a really exciting place to be. So I hope you think a little bit more broadly about building endurance now. We can do it with other forms of cross training, and it is the most important physical skill that we can build as distance runners. So I hope you're enjoying the beautiful scenery in this video. I am out in the mountains doing a trail run and stopped real quick to film this video. There's a beautiful stream behind me. I hope you can hear some of that babbling brook. It's just absolutely beautiful. But Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful in helping you think about endurance and build it into your training program. And don't forget to check out the links underneath this video so you can learn more about our training programs that help you do exactly that.